Right. So what is brain fog, firstly? So really what happens is we get the inability, I'm going to have to leave my glasses on, inability to focus, memory loss for some people, difficulty learning new things. People really struggle with this. Feelings of discouragement, loss of motivation, chronic fatigue, or just some of them, okay? So there are also other symptoms that you can have with them as well. But sometimes what happens is you can have logic. Your logic is not there. People will say to you, use your common sense. What's wrong with you? And you'll think, what is wrong with me? Okay. So it really just amounts to the fact that your brain's not working as well as it should. Now, I probably suffered from brain fog my whole life up until the point that I was about 28, 29. How I had kids and got married, I'm not quite sure. But my siblings and my parents used to laugh at me when I was a kid. They called me Dopey Dick and Sad Sack because I'd cry for no reason. But we'd be driving down the road and my mother would say, look at that funny man. And 10 minutes later, I'd say, what? Where? Like I was in this, like inside my head all the time and my brain was just not sharp. And one of the things I really enjoy about having changed my lifestyle is my brain is super sharp. Super, super sharp. So it works all the time, not like it used to. And I'm not quite sure how I got through school, but I managed to get through school with a university entrance pass. It was the moments of clarity that I had in between the brain fog that actually helped me get there. I wish I had the brain I had now. I'd probably ace it with 7 A's or something. My brain is super sharp these days, and it's not something I'm boasting about. Everybody who's followed the principles that I give them to follow, and I'm going to share with you tonight, find that their brain starts to work. And the most common things that affect our brains is lack of exercise, lack in the incorrect diet, lack of nutrients, a lack of natural light, lack of essential fatty acids. There's just so many things I'm going to go through. A lot of things can affect it. The other things that can affect your brain on the other side is anything that affects your thyroid gland. And I'm going to go through in detail. So if I rush through initially, I'm going to go back on it, okay? So your thyroid gland is situated around your larynx over here. And the thyroid gland controls mental clarity, and it's part of your hormonal or your endocrine system. And it's a butterfly in shape, and it's wrapped, as I say, around the larynx, and it needs lots of good food. It needs managed stress. The things that upset the thyroid are things like chronic stress, day in and day out, working in an environment you hate, living in an environment you hate, living in a very stressful relationship or in a stressful whatever. It's chronic stress, day in, day out, can affect the thyroid. A high protein diet that you go on for a long period of time. With some people, it can be 6 weeks, and some people, it can be 6 months. We know that it affects the thyroid gland. And that's why very often people will lose a lot of weight on a high protein diet initially as they go into a ketogenic state. But usually within 6 to 18 months, the metabolism starts to slow down because you've hammered your thyroid gland. Caffeine, alcohol, refined sugar, gluten, soy products, these can all affect the thyroid gland. It doesn't affect everybody's thyroid gland, it just affects some people's thyroid gland. So you have to see whether these things are affecting you, and what you have to do is try removing some of them as you go along. Now, some of you might be panic already thinking, oh my word, there's nothing left to eat. What am I going to eat? I'm going to give you some basic principles to follow. I also have 3 different programs that you can go on that will help you, that have support. We have weekly Q&As, and they work better usually than the session started today. We have weekly Q&A sessions. Monday nights, 30 days detox. Tuesday nights is 100 days to health, and I'll explain those later on. And Wednesday nights is going to be the 365 program, which starts in February. So, and you can read my book. The principles are in my book, Perfect Health the Natural Way, which you can either order from Amazon or in Kindle, or you can order directly from us at marians.com. Those will help you. I'm going to give you this information. It's free. You don't have to buy anything, go on any program. There's no catch here. If you want support and you want to be encouraged in a group, because we work in groups, you have a facilitator who's the person that invited you here tonight. And that facilitator, if you don't have one, I'll put it up at the end. You go to Claudia at wholeworldwell.com, and she will allocate a facilitator to you. And the reason you need a facilitator is that you go into groups. You go into WhatsApp or Facebook groups, or some people are in Telegram groups. There are different types of social media that you can be in groups. It's up to the facilitator to choose. And then You can ask questions in that group. You can post your meals that you eat. You can find out somebody else may have been doing this for 3 months and they've got a bit ahead of you and they can encourage you. This whole thing about getting healthy is not to focus on what you can't do. It's to focus on what you can do, okay? And that's why I love our 100 Days to Health program, because you're adding good things to your existing health. The 3065 is very much about your lifestyle. It's about every aspect of your life. It's not just about food and exercise, which is very much what the 100 Days is about. It's about everything. Do you love your work? Do you have a vision? Your spiritual balance, financial balance? It's about all these different things as well. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. If you contact your facilitator, they'll be able to give you the information on it, or Claudia@wholeworldwell.com. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Okay, so one of the things is that people with brain fog suffer from stress and anxiety and depression. That's a very common side effect, stress, anxiety, and depression, but it's not the only symptom. Now, feeling depressed or stressed or down occasionally is pretty normal for most people, especially in the world that we're living in now. We don't know what's going to happen from day to day. Is the whole world going to lock down? Or is it just, are we nearly through it and we're coming out the other side? And then just when you think we're coming out the other side, you may hear if somebody's got it and you get all fearful about it. Last night I spoke about the immune system, and when you understand how the immune system works, which is one of the things we talk about on the programs, you will have such faith in your body to repair itself. And really what these programs and what I encourage you to do is get your body to a place where you have created the right environment, and that's what the programs in the book help you do, is get your body to a place where it can repair itself. There are no gurus. I'm not your guru. I'm not here to cure you or wave a magic wand or chant over you or anything like that. Okay? I can only help you understand your body better, make better choices, and give you programs that are supported so that you're not feeling like you're out there and you don't know what's going on. And if you're suffering from brain fog, you need a support system, because initially your brain is still foggy. So as your brain clears, you'll be able to kind of think more clearly about what it is you're doing, but you're really going to need the support to make those changes, okay? So this is not about, as I said, some cure, some miracle cure. I'm not going to sell you a product that's going to cure you. I'm going to help you create the right environment in which your body can repair itself, and it does. If you cut your finger, you look at the photographs of how skin repairs itself. You're not standing there and say skin repair itself, putting drops on there every 5 minutes. In fact, the more you fiddle with a wound, the longer it takes to actually repair. If you just put a Band-Aid on it and keep it clean, wash it in hot water and hot salty water, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a burn or a cut, or it repairs itself. And I've seen it time and again in my own body. I've seen it on my children, my grandchildren, my husband. I've seen it on children at our school. They fall and cut themselves. We put a Band-Aid on, and the next day the Band-Aid's off. They're better. Sometimes it's a bad cut. Sometimes it's a bad burn, and it might take a couple of weeks, but your body repairs itself. It does that to its internal organs as well. If you've damaged your liver, very often you might be told there's no way the liver can recover. I heard from somebody last night who said she was told that her body can't detoxify itself because it's just a faulty liver. Now that's bizarre, because you can remove half of your liver. You've got a large lobe and a small lobe, and you can put the small lobe in, say, for example, a child. If your child had a liver problem, you put the small lobe in there, or in somebody else that you donated your portion of your liver to. The large half of the large side of your liver will actually be produced by that little piece. That little piece will generate and make this large portion of your liver. Now, you've got the large portion left in you, and so your liver will make the little small portion. It's amazing. It's like you'd think the large portion would just make another large one, but it doesn't. It creates the other half of it, whichever one is missing. Unfortunately, kidneys can't regenerate. When I say can't regenerate, you can't grow one once it's out. But I've seen people, when they create the right environment in which the body can repair itself, those kidneys function at optimal levels. I've seen it doesn't matter what hormonal problems you have. When people have fertility problems, I've had babies named after me because people in their 40s can't have babies, and then they change their diet and lifestyle and they get the natural light and the sunlight, because all of that helps your endocrine system work properly, which is what helps your thyroid gland to function properly. We're going to look at what the thyroid does. We're going to look at some of the other symptoms. So let's look at some of the other symptoms as well, okay? So with stress, anxiety, and depression, you might have a sense of hopelessness. You might find that you're worrying, you're sad, you have an empty feeling. You may have feelings of guilt, worthlessness, helplessness. loss of interest and ability to enjoy activities you usually like, low energy, loss of appetite, weight loss or overeating and weight gain, changes in your sleep patterns. And that was very much me growing up. I had this continual sense of hopelessness. I was finally diagnosed as being bipolar, which in those days they called manic depression. I used to go from incredible highs to incredible lows, but I was a complete sugar junkie. And I stopped the refined sugar and replaced it with natural glucose as found in fresh fruit. My brain switched on, started working properly. I haven't suffered from depression in absolute years, even though we've been through some pretty traumatic things. And some of you know we lost our warehouse through a fire 3 years ago, and our home and all our contents of that. We did keep the property on which we were, and we had some buildings like the school and a couple of other cottages and houses. And so we were able to rebuild very much with the help of a lot of you, it may be. So thank you for any of you who donated and helped. Even the dress I'm wearing is something that somebody gave me after the fire. I love the things I got after the fire. They were better than the things I had before. So thank you if you are a donor. We really appreciate it. But very traumatic things we've gone through. We went through the whole COVID thing and had to shut down our restaurant, which we'd used our insurance money to open in Cape Town, thinking it would generate an income faster than waiting to build another building and move back into it. And then we had to lock it down after two years because we just could not pay this enormous rental with no people coming in the door. So all of that trauma that we've gone through, I can tell you that I've coped with, and so has my husband, being on a healthy diet, exercising, and having the balance in our lives. And so those are the things that I'm going to share with you. You can get over, I've seen people get over all kinds of depression by removing things like refined sugar and alcohol. And what that does is refined sugar and alcohol pushes your blood sugar up. You overproduce insulin, it comes down too low. And when it's up here, you're feeling great. And when it's down here, it's not feeling good. You're feeling flat, you're feeling depressed, you want to kill yourself. I certainly did. I planned my suicide so many times. And I didn't realize that in my family, because I wasn't really aware of all my cousins and stuff, you're so busy growing up yourself. But once you kind of got kids, you start talking to cousins and aunts and uncles. So many people in our family have thyroid problems and brain fog problems. And so many of them love sugar or alcohol. So I found that for my thyroid to work properly, I had to stop refined sugar and alcohol. That was me. I also found that things like garlic and onion give me brain fog, and gluten gives me brain fog. So that doesn't affect everybody. Some people don't have a thyroid problem or a brain fog problem, and they're eating whole wheat bread, and it doesn't do anything to their brain. It works 100%. I was watching Bill Gates consuming, there's a series about Bill Gates on Netflix, or there was, I'm not sure if it's there anymore. And he was drinking, he walked around every time he was in a shot, he was drinking a Diet Coke. And I don't think it was there so that you can earn money from it, but who knows? And I thought, oh my word, that guy's brain works on it. Artificial sweeteners give me total brain fog. Okay, I can't have a diet anything because it messes up the endocrine system. And some people's endocrine system are way more sensitive than other people's. And your thyroid's part of the endocrine system, so is your brain function. So your thyroid gland controls a whole lot of things. It controls your mental clarity. It controls your memory. It controls your metabolism, the rate at which you burn fuel. So you may burn it too fast and have an overactive thyroid, or burn it too slow and have an underactive thyroid. So underactive, you gain weight and you're sluggish and you don't sleep properly, and overactive, you don't sleep properly either. And you find that your brain is racing all the time. You can't sleep, for example. And that's one of the things I want to get to, is lack of sleep. Lack of sleep plays havoc on your endocrine system, and in turn, for many people, on the thyroid gland. Now, you might say, well, my thyroid's not working properly, or I've got this brain fog, I can't sleep, how am I going to sleep? But one of the problems is that taking sleeping tablets can actually cause brain fog. It's a common side effect of medication is brain fog. So you need to actually read the insert of everything that you're on, see whether that is possibly one of them. Work with your doctor to try and wean yourself off as much medication as you possibly can. But not rushing it, just being very cautious about it, very careful about it. It's entirely up to you. But while you're doing that, you've got to be working on your body and making sure that your endocrine system is working properly by feeding it properly and exercising it, creating a right environment in which your endocrine system and the thyroid can repair itself. Okay? The body repairs itself. Remember that. It defends itself, it repairs itself. So lack of sleep is very, very much, it basically causes stress on the body. We know that stress affects the thyroid gland. How much sleep do you need? Somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. You need more sleep if your diet's unhealthy, less sleep if it's healthy. Many nights I can get by on 4 hours of sleep because I've either been fasting or I've been on raw food. And when I eat on raw food, very little energy is needed for digestion. And it's, especially when I'm on fruit in summer, I could just eat watermelons, mangoes, lychees. What have I eaten today? Organic grapes. Oh my word, just such delicious things. A watermelon. I had organic grapes and organic watermelon. We found the most amazing farmer. Every single watermelon we cut open is firm and red and juicy and not floury and spongy inside. It's just absolutely perfect. You cannot believe these watermelons. And we have them in our store in Gordons Bay. Unfortunately, you have to come to the shop and get them. We can't post them to you or deliver to your front door. But there's so much fruit. What I'm saying is in summer that I can go for days just eating fruit and a handful of nuts and seeds here. And you're getting all the nutrients you need. You're getting the calcium and the magnesium, the potassium. I take my barley life and I take my omega, just carrots and ready beets. And that's basically what I take. And I've got a bit of beet and peak endurance here. When I'm going into a stressful time, I eat more carefully. Your body needs a better diet. What we do when we're under stress is we eat worse. So we've got this chronic stress maybe going on in our body. We're working very hard at work, and now we're taking chocolates, and we're drinking lots of coffee and tea. And caffeine is one of those things that affects the thyroid and the endocrine system and affects your brain, okay? It's going to affect your brain. Caffeine's going to do it because it overstimulates the central nervous system, exhausts your adrenal glands. And what we know from brain fog is that one of the causes of brain fog is adrenal exhaustion, or adrenal glands that have been overstimulated and worked too hard, and now they're kind of flat and they don't have any energy. When your adrenal glands are not working as efficiently as they are, you could have high blood pressure, low blood pressure, high blood sugar, low blood sugar, allergies, hay fever. Gosh, what else? It controls mineral balances in your body as well. You could find you have cramps in your muscles and things like that, okay? So lack of sleep. We need 6 to 8 hours. We need good quality sleep. If you're eating late at night after the sun is set, you're not going to sleep as well as you should. Your body is not designed to eat once the sun is set. I know that's a shock. Difficult where I live in the Western Cape. It's now here 7:35 in the evening and the sun is still up. Like quite high actually. The sun sets late in the Western Cape, but it sets quite early in winter. So we need to be eating. We can eat later in summer and earlier in winter, but we find that we sleep better if our food is digested before we go to bed. And one of the things I encourage everybody to do is to not mix proteins and starches at a meal, because you get fermentation. And I explain that very, very carefully on the 100 Days to Health, as well as in my book, Perfect Health. Not mixing proteins and starches because they ferment when they're eaten together. And you get alcohol, ammonia, and acetic acid, and the alcohol will affect your brain. So when you're mixing proteins and starches, at a meal, you could find you more prone to brain fog. And it's one of the reasons when people get onto the 100 Days and they get onto the programs that we have, usually within 2 weeks, there's a big improvement in brain fog and in sleep. Those are the first two things we see. And then we start seeing the energy go up. Some people, the brain fog may take a little bit longer. If you find that your digestive tract is affecting the way your brain works and you need to move it along, then I'd recommend you go into the 100 Days to Health and get yourself to week 8 as fast as possible, which you can't do because it's emailed to you, but you've got the book sent to you. You get the book emailed to you, and you can go to the chapter on digestion, the question of digestion, and you can read exactly what it is you need to do. It sounds complicated, but it's not. You have chicken, fish, and vegetable, chicken or fish, meat, with vegetables and salads. That's it. You just don't have potatoes with them, or pasta. So you have pasta with tomato sauce instead of a bolognese sauce. You want to have bolognese sauce, you put it on a butternut. You want to have a baked potato, you have it with a big salad and some steamed veggies or some grilled mushrooms, but you don't eat it. You want to have a burger on bread, you take a big brown mushroom and you grill it and you put it on as a patty. It's not that complicated, it's pretty easy. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I need to get through this, okay? So what do we do with our sleep? Try and get to bed at least 2 hours. Try and be in your bed at least 2 hours before midnight. That's very important. If you want to stress yourself, I know that my thyroid goes wonky if I'm not going to bed and giving my body enough rest. Give it 2 weeks of just not getting just enough sleep, like half an hour a night. My body, I can feel it slow down. My appetite increases. My brain's not working as much. So sleep is very important, okay? Don't think this is just something silly. Your brain recharges your brain and central, not your brain, sleep recharges your brain and central nervous system. It's essential to sleep. Your brain simply won't work properly. You could be depressed, have mood swings simply because you're not sleeping properly. You could have this brain fog because you're not sleeping properly. You could have a slowed down metabolism because your thyroid gland controls that because you're not sleeping properly and enough. So eat early enough, don't mix proteins and starches, and try and focus on eating whole natural foods, okay? Very important to eat whole natural foods as well as eating something raw before something cooked. So you have raw fruit or vegetables before you have your main meal. That'll help your immune system function more efficiently, but it also makes your environment in your body a lot more alkaline because those are alkaline forming foods. And it's a fascinating thing that they did a study in the UK on a boys' school, and they did tests on these boys, obviously with their parents' permission, and they found that the higher the alkaline environment in the brain, the higher the IQ. And people find that the more fruit and vegetables they eat, especially in a raw state, and eating raw before cooked, they find their brains feel smarter. And the reason for that is your diet's more alkaline forming. Ideally, your diet should be 75 to 80% alkaline forming, and that's what our programs do, is get you to that. As I said, it depends on which program you want to be on. You may want to know about the programs, and you may be rushing off somewhere. If you need to know more about them, contact the person that invited you to this, your facilitator, the person that told you about it. Contact them directly, or Claudia@wholeworldwell.com. Just in case you're late and you popped in only now, I'm going to repeat that quite regularly so you all know where to go, okay? So if you're not sleeping properly, then you will wake up feeling exhausted. You will snore. Snoring doesn't give you a good quality sleep. You can wake up gasping and choking, and you can wake up with a headache, and you know you haven't slept properly, okay? Right, so some of the other things that can cause hormonal changes. And here's the thing, very often we'll read and we'll say, oh, you're having thyroid problems and brain fog problems because you're pregnant. People will say, and I remember when I was pregnant, it felt like my brain was full of cotton wool. They'll say because you're going through your premenstrual or your menopausal or your estrogen levels are too high or your estrogen levels are too low. They'll put a name to it. You're on birth control. That can affect your brain fog as well. But birth control can definitely do that. And in my book, Healthy Kids, which is available online, you can get everything about natural birth control and what to use and how to use it and what works accurately. There's actually a little device called the Pearly that's devised by gynecologists in Germany, and it's shipped all over the world, and it can tell you exactly when you're ovulating, so you can abstain, and it's the best form of contraception, and there's no side effects either, okay? So that's information's in my book, Healthy Kids. You can read about that. But very often we're saying you've got a condition, menopause or pregnancy, but menopause and pregnancy and menstruating, this doesn't cause a hormonal imbalance. The hormonal imbalance in your body, that's your endocrine system, which the thyroid's part of it and affects brain fog. The hormonal system is not working like it should because you're not doing something that you should be doing. And on our programs, we like to focus on adding the good stuff to your diet. So the first thing you do in week 1 is add raw before cooked. Week 2, what you do is you exercise for 5 minutes a day, and you build it up to a minimum of 20 minutes a day, at least twice a day. That's the least you should be doing if you're wanting your hormonal system to work properly. Your hormonal system needs natural light, so it can regulate melatonin and serotonin, a little gland. If you kind of drilled a hole here and there, you find this pea-sized gland. And that pea-sized gland regulates melatonin that helps you sleep properly at night. It'll also help with the brain fog, and serotonin that makes you happy during the daytime, which will help with your brain fog. It makes your brain function more efficiently. But it also helps the entire endocrine system to work properly. And that's just natural light. Now, you can't go outside with your glasses on like this because it blocks the UV rays, and it's the UV rays that enter the pupil of your eye. You don't have to look at the sun. You just have to be outdoors with no glasses or lenses over your eyes. If you are as blind as a bat and you want to sit on your veranda or go for a walk, put your glasses on the end of your nose, and you can still look down there when you're walking, okay? So you can do that, or you can make sure that you're walking early in the morning and late in the evening if you're very sensitive to the sun. I don't recommend walking at peak midday sun, unless it's midwinter in Canada. Then you want that sun desperately. So you've got to just monitor it. If your skin's feeling hot and burning within 20 minutes of being in the sun, it is too hot for you and it's doing damage. And that includes when you're lying on the beach. Getting in the water to cool down is not saving your skin. If you're feeling uncomfortable in the sun, cover up and get out of the sun. Don't get in the water. Or, yeah, everybody talks about putting sunblock on. I've read too many side effects of the ingredients that are in sunblock from all over the world, Australia, the UK, in medical journals. I'm not comfortable with it. But if you eat lots and lots and lots and lots of yellow fruit and vegetables, your skin goes brown and you don't burn and you don't get the damage that you get. Beta carotene is a natural protective substance. I also don't try my best not to go in peak midday sun. And then I will wear maybe a long-sleeved thin white top, summer top with a broad-brimmed hat, for example. On Saturday, we were staying with friends, and we were in their pool, and we were just visiting so nicely and talking so much about stuff that none of us realized what the time was. And we were in the sun at peak midday, and I burned quite badly on my chest here. I'm not going to take my clothes all the way down, but you can see there's nothing red there now. It was quite sensitive on the day. I put some aloe on it. And I was fine, but I had been eating watermelon and mangoes and peaches and all things full of beta carotene. So beta carotene helps your body protect itself from sunburn, just in case you overdo it, but don't neglect the sun. You need sleep, you need sun, okay? Right. It's not the menopause, it's the fact that you're not treating your body with the respect and kindness that it needs so that you go through the menopause with no symptoms whatsoever. No craziness, no brain fog, no weight gain, no spare tire, nothing. A healthy woman goes through menopause with no side effects at all. A healthy woman goes through pregnancy and she doesn't have brain fog. And I know because I was healthier. Although I always followed a healthy diet. I made my own yogurt, my own whole wheat bread. But by the time my youngest daughter came along, that's 36 years ago, my diet was a lot better than it was in the beginning. And I was taking out things like gluten and dairy products and stuff. And I found I had absolutely no brain fog during that pregnancy at all. All right, so medications I've already mentioned can. There are a lot of drugs that can do it. Antidepressants can do it. Medicines that you're taking for chemotherapy can do it. Sleeping tablets, allergy medication, medication for an overactive bladder. You've got to find out, get the insert. If you don't have the insert from your medication, go online. That's where Google comes in. Go online onto any one of the search engines and type the name of your medicine in and say side effects and try and find the website of the company that manufactures it, because then you'll know that those are genuinely side effects. And they are long. I've never found one drug that doesn't have side effects. A lot of them. Right, so one of the things, as I said earlier on, is underactive thyroid. And what are the signs that your thyroid is underactive? You can feel very tired. You can gain weight for no apparent reason. You feel weak, stiff, sore in your muscles. Not all of them, but maybe some of them. You have less tolerance to cold. In fact, your hands and feet are never really hot. You get into bed at night. In winter, you really cringe because they're cold all the time. And you may find that you become constipated. Now, the exact opposite may happen if it's an overactive thyroid. Either way, it needs to be balanced. Overactive, you could have diarrhea, you lose weight for no reason, you eat and eat and eat, and you can't gain weight. You may feel weak, stiff, and sore in your muscles. And you may not have cold hands and feet, or you may. So you need to create the right environment so that your entire endocrine system, including the thyroid gland, can work properly. I am repeating myself because I know people miss bits and pieces. As I'm talking, your head goes off in a tangent and you start thinking about, oh, is that what was wrong with my mother and my grandmother? And that's why we have it. And that's why. So I'll repeat myself, okay? My charger isn't in here, Mom. Can you just put my charger in? Or is it? Something's happened. Oh, it's falling out of the thing here. There we go. All I need to do is lose electricity. All right, so what else? Here's the interesting things. The things that are affected when we have brain fog is your frontal lobe. Okay, your frontal lobe is very focused on mental clarity. It's considered the last part of the brain that was formed, and it's the last part of the brain to be fully formed. it is your frontal lobe is only fully developed when you're around 25. And I remember reading that research probably 25 years ago, Time magazine. The research had been published in Time, did a huge feature on the fact that we always thought that children's brains were fully developed by the time they were 13 and then 16 and then 18. But they're now studying thousands of children. They found that the frontal lobe is only fully developed at 25. That's the part of the brain that controls moral behavior, planning, forethought. Let me get you some more details on that. Problem solving, judgment, impulse control. It also manages higher emotions such as empathy and altruism. This lobe is also involved in motor control and memory. What we do know about sociopaths and narcissists, those are people who are totally self-focused, is that they usually don't have any empathy. So you may begin to think that maybe I know this narcissistic person because their brain is not fully developed. Or maybe because they consume alcohol and because they consume refined sugar, what we know is the blood sugar shoots up very high and you overproduce insulin and comes down, and you may suffer from reactive hypoglycemia. Reactive hypoglycemia happens when your blood sugar drops too low. The frontal lobe shuts down, and the part of the brain that takes over is the primitive area of the brain. Some people refer to it as the reptilian area of the brain, which is what controls reproduction, sexual function. It controls base things like aggression, appetite. Some people refer to it as the animal part of our brain. In fact, in the book of Genesis in the Bible, there's a story about Cain killing his brother Abel. And recently, the last couple of years, I've been looking at some of the original Hebrew words and the structure of it. It was so amazing to see what it actually meant. When Cain was thinking about killing his brother, apparently God spoke to him and said, "There is a beast crouching at your door, resist it." And that beast, I believe, is that part of the brain that tells you to do mean, nasty things to other people and to manipulate people and stuff like that. And that's what takes over when we consume alcohol and refined sugar. And that's why people behave so badly. Not everybody, some people. My dad used to trash the house regularly when he'd been drinking. He did. That's why my mother divorced him when I was 10 years old. I look at it now and I think it's quite, it's not funny, but it was a relief to know what was going on. The thing is that I inherited that same brain. I would trash the house when I had sugar. Sugar did to me what it did to my father. And what took over was that base part of the brain. I've heard some horror stories about people who consumed lots of sugar. One woman was very involved in a local church. 3 times a week they went to church and Bible studies, and her husband was an elder in the church. And she would end up sometimes in a town far away from her home, in another man's bed, and not know how she got there. She suffered from not alcoholic blackouts, sugar blackouts. Alcohol can make you blackout. You can be walking around and remember nothing the next day. One of the best programs I know of to help people with alcohol is a program called World with No Wine. Is it right, Mark? World Without Wine. A woman called Janet, she actually interviewed me about my alcoholic parents a little while ago, and you can go onto a podcast. But World Without Wine, it's an online program that helps people come off alcohol. And she said to me, she stopped when there were whole days just missing. She would wake up the next day and couldn't remember anything about the previous day at all. Absolutely nothing. That's when she stopped drinking. And that's what happens to some people just with sugar, because what happens is the frontal lobe shuts down, the thyroid gland stops working properly, can't handle this blood sugar all over the place. That frontal lobe shuts down, and the animal part takes over, which is reproduction. So you're on a mission to reproduce, but you're married happily with 3 children. That's very scary, okay? So, all right, so what takes over is that primitive part or hindbrain or the reptilian brain, okay? So let me talk a little bit about the thyroid gland. Some other common problems, I haven't covered them all. The thyroid gland, if it's not working properly, you can, as I said, feel tired and listless, feel chilly, especially when other people are comfortable, particularly hands and feet. It's one of the things I noticed that changed when I changed my diet and my lifestyle. I was always cold, freezing in winter. My toes would feel like they were going to drop off. And now I can go winter and summer, and I don't feel extremely hot, and I don't feel extremely cold. It's fantastic. There's just this moderate. I can eat cold food in winter and it doesn't make me cold. I can eat hot food in summer and it doesn't necessarily make me hot, although hot oats always makes me hot. Dry skin, okay, very dry skin that ages really fast. We know that gluten has an effect on the thyroid, and one of the things that it does is age the skin very fast. When people remove gluten from the diet, very often you'll see the skin within a month, it's like they've had a facelift. They're 10 years younger. I was one of those people, okay? Constipation, hair loss is one of the things, and women and men can lose hair. I know I've worked with many women that are almost bald. They've got a couple of strands over here, and they're kind of covering these patches at the back. And recently worked with one of the people, and she had actually taken photographs and said, "Look, my hair is growing. It's amazing." Other people have had their eyelashes and their eyebrows not growing, and they're growing. And the skin, you'll notice a change in your skin and your hair loss. Okay. Slow growing and brittle fingernails, slow heart rate, leg cramps, sore muscles, depression, heavier periods if the thyroid's not working properly. I used to have hectically heavy periods. 7 days, sorry guys, we have to talk about this stuff. Heavy days like I was bleeding to death, okay? And it's very embarrassing because you don't want to go out in case you have a leakage. It's really not a comfortable thing. And as my diet changed and my lifestyle changed, it went from 7 heavy days to 5 not so heavy days, to 4 less to lighter days, and eventually it ended up between 2 and 3 days and was very light. I didn't feel like I was miscarrying. Every time I had a period, I felt like I was actually losing a baby. There was so much that came out. It was just a light little discharge, and actually that's what in a healthy woman it should be like that. No pain, none of that groin pain, no back pain, no feeling completely drained. I would go white in the face from the loss of blood. My mother would actually look at me and say, "Are you new?" I'd go white with dark rings under my eyes. None of that once I changed my diet to the principles that we share with you on our programs, okay? And mainly for me, it was removing dairy products and removing slowly. I started to reduce the amount of animal products in the diet simply because I started losing my palate for them. We started off not mixing proteins and starches for our digestive tract and Mark's digestive tract and my allergies. And so we would choose. We're going to have pasta with a nice tomato sauce, like a puttanesca sauce with some capers and some leeks and tomatoes and maybe some olives in it, or we're going to have the bolognese beef on a butternut. And so we would choose the pasta or the potatoes or the rice, and our digestive tracts improved dramatically. But what improved as well is we started eating less and less animal products, and that's when my period really, both our hormonal systems started to work properly, okay? What other problems, okay? For men, loss of interest in sex, erectile dysfunction, which is one of the side effects of taking blood pressure medication. And blood pressure medication is affecting the endocrine system. You know it affects the adrenal glands directly, but the adrenal glands work with the thyroid gland. They work with the pituitary gland. They work with the ovaries and testes. You can't treat one portion of the endocrine system and not upset the rest of it. And that's why many people who take blood pressure medication will end up with diabetes. It's one of the side effects of taking blood pressure meds is diabetes. Very common side effect from the meds, okay? So it's important for you to know, you need to know this stuff. Ignorance is not bliss anymore, okay? You've got to know that this is what can happen with your body, and you need to make a decision. And I'm not telling you to go off your medication. You can work with your doctor. If he's very anti you coming off the medication, try and find a doctor that is an integrative doctor. There are doctors that have studied integrative medicine, which is a little bit more homeopathic, a little bit more natural, although they end up putting you on hundreds of supplements and giving you vitamin D, when all you need to do is go outside and let the sun shine on your skin, and you get it for free, as long as you've got omega-3s in your diet. And that's why a lot of people can still have a vitamin D deficiency and live in a sunny country, because they're not taking in any omega-3s in their fat. And the most reliable source, we get it in some nuts and seeds in tiny amounts, is from flax oil. It's one of the reasons why I encourage everybody to take a flax oil supplement, not a fish oil supplement, because it actually interferes with the process of making vitamin D, because it's got cholesterol in it, and it's not the right kind of cholesterol. The right kind of cholesterol we make in the liver, and when your body, you have omega-3s in your diet, your body transports the cholesterol to your skin where the sun shines on your skin and converts it into vitamin D. And that vitamin D actually has a hormonal effect on the body and helps the thyroid gland to function properly as well. It's very important that we make sure we're getting omega-3s in our diet. I know I'm telling you a lot. The good news is this is recorded and you can watch it again if you need to, okay? So anemia, fuzzy head, you cannot think clearly. We already spoke about that. Weight gain, fluid retention. Fluid retention, you can have puffy eyes, puffy face, puffy hands, puffy fingers, puffy feet. You're retaining water around your ankles. That's an indication that your thyroid may not be working properly. And if you've got brain fog with it, it's very clearly could be that could be. You can have it tested. You can go to your doctor, have your thyroid tested, and they'll say your T4, your T3 is too low or too high. And the next thing, you're on medication. When you get the diagnosis and say to your doctor, please will you work with me? I'm wanting to change my lifestyle and diet, and I'm wanting to give it at least 6 months, 6 to 12 months to get it sorted out. And then you go on the program, and you'll see like so many other people do. I'm going to read you a testimony from somebody. There you can see, okay? If your thyroid gland is overactive, you're feeling too hot when others are comfortable. You have shakes and tremors of your hands. You're feeling nervous and irritable. You're sweating more than you used to. Your fingernails are growing faster. Strange side effect, isn't it? Muscle weakness, especially thighs and upper arms. Faster heart rate, sometimes irregular rhythms and erratic pulse. Now, a lot of people, some of the people when I was doing the webinar last night on the immune system, one of the people said to me, but I have an erratic pulse and I have an irregular difficulties. That's very common with the thyroid problem. And you may be told you can never come off it because your heart depends on it and you'll have a heart attack. Find a doctor who will work with you, because so many people I've seen change their diet and they no longer need the medication. As one woman said to the doctor, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it because you can at least walk after 4 years of having removed your rib and done all kinds of other things to your body. And now you're walking and all your swelling's gone. Just carry on doing what you're doing. I don't fully understand it. Unfortunately, doctors don't study. In general, they do not study nutrition, health, and the effect that lifestyle has on our bodies. What they do study is diseases or symptoms and conditions, and then they'll treat that with medicine or with surgery. And a lot of doctors have left medicine because they found that those are not ideal solutions. They deal with the symptoms, they suppress the symptoms, they don't actually help the body repair itself. Once you start on medication, then you're taking more. You start with that blood pressure medicine, then you're on the diabetic medicine, and then you can't sleep at night, so it's sleeping tablets, and then you're taking antidepressants because you're asleep, and then you've got side effects of antidepressants, and it just goes on and on. My mother-in-law died at 69 on 11 different kinds of drugs, starting with blood pressure medication, then diabetes, and it went down. My own mother, until she came and stayed with us a year ago, was on 7 different kinds of drugs, and this is a woman who taught me, raised us to never be on medication. But she went into a retirement village and she eventually gave up. Everybody's on medicine. She just thought it was inevitable. She was tired all the time. The doctor said it's your thyroid and gave her thyroid meds. And she had a side effect of that, and then a side effect of the other one. And eventually she was just falling over. Told her she had Parkinson's and she was just standing and just falling straight over. And she was suffering from dementia. She now is frail. She's 88. But her brain is so sharp, she can play cards and beat anybody that plays with her. She's taught other people so well that some of them, and this is in the last year, playing rummy with them. They actually now, some of them are beating her because she taught them so well. All right, so let's take a look, okay? Other thyroid problems you can have which might affect your brain is goiter, an enlarged thyroid, which is a sign that the gland is overworking, and one of the common side causes of that is from a lack of iodine in the diet. Iodine is found in kelp. It's one of the reasons I take barley light, because it's got Icelandic kelp in it, and so it has a little bit of that, and you can't actually taste it, and it's got just the right amount of iodine. If your thyroid gland is overactive and you take something with iodine, it may make your brain race and your heart race. So you need to be careful if your thyroid gland is overactive and not take things with kelp in, and then you can take something like leafy greens, for example, which has no kelp in it, or you may be able to take something else. You can make your own barley grass juice, but it's just so convenient to buy it organic, gluten-free, and juiced in a container, and then you reconstitute it in water. All right, you can have lumps or nodules in the gland found by you or your doctor and may contain cancer or be overproducing thyroid hormone. That's an overactive thyroid. Sadly, very often when somebody has an overactive thyroid, they remove the thyroid gland. And I say sadly because then you're on medication for life, and there are side effects, okay? I would always say to a doctor, please just give me a year. Let me try and change my lifestyle and my diet and see. And if it doesn't, Diet and lifestyle changes and exercise and natural light and sleep should be your first resort. Your first resort, not your last resort. And then you go and you say, okay, this hasn't worked. Is there some medicine? Is there some surgery? Very few people need to go that route once they've changed their lifestyle and diet. And we're seeing such phenomenal changes in people's lives. I've really got to read you some of the testimonies. All right. Okay. Where are we? Right, these are some of the things that affect your, I've mentioned some of them already. Artificial sweeteners, aspartame, which is found in all our diet cold drinks, and NutraSweet, Equal, and Canderol. It is claimed by independent scientists it can cause neuroendocrine disorders. That's disorders of the central nervous system and the hormonal system. And that will affect the thyroid. It doesn't matter what you do, it's going to affect your thyroid. And that's very often why people go onto artificial sweeteners and they start gaining weight, because you're messing with your thyroid gland. Messing with the endocrine system, your metabolism controlled by the thyroid, and then with that you get that foggy head. And you find that women very often get older and they're like, I've just become stupid as I've become older, and I've put on all this weight. That's because we're going down this road using artificial sweeteners, and I've got our middle age spread, and our brain's not working properly. Okay, yes, you can reverse it. It just takes longer. The longer you've been on artificial sweeteners, the longer it can take. Let's say you're 50 years old or 30 years old, and you've got brain fog and you're overweight and you're not feeling great. It could take 2 to 8 years. It might take 6 months, but it could take 2 to 8 years to sort out all your problems. That is not long compared to your age. Don't give up and stop looking for instant cures. There are no magic bullets, silver bullets, magic cures, miracle cures. Your body is the miracle and you live in it. Listen to it. It tells you what to do. It actually tells you, I need something sweet. Then you go and eat fresh fruit, not sugar. I need something salty. You're usually needing natural fats. And then you go and eat some vegetables with a couple of olives and a bit of olive oil or a handful of nuts and seeds. So you've got to learn to listen to your body. That's very, very important, okay? Hugely important, okay? Refined sugar I've already mentioned. I've spoken about reactive hypoglycemia. Alcohol affects us. Lack of essential fatty acids I've mentioned. Processed and heated fats. High protein diet I've mentioned that. Caffeine, which is in green tea. It's in black tea. It's in coffee. It's in chocolates. It's in raw cacao. It's in raw chocolates. It doesn't matter. Caffeine can upset your entire endocrine system, cause problems with the thyroid, and the next thing you've got brain fog, okay? Gluten. Gluten is known to upset the thyroid gland. It's an autoimmune type of response, and it feels like your body's attacking itself, but it's because we eat a lot of foods containing gluten that have sugar in it, and then the body, and the gluten is similar to proteins in our body, and the sugar causes your blood sugar to fluctuate all over the place, and your body thinks you're being attacked and produces antibodies. And the antibodies attack the protein, which is the gluten, and it starts attacking your body because there's similar proteins in your body, okay? Mustard oil. Mustard found is in high levels in garlic and onion. Smaller extent in things like cabbages and stuff, but some people have a problem with mustard oil. So I recommend that you cook garlic and onion until it's really glassy and floppy, because that destroys some of the mustard oil. How do we know it's destroyed? It doesn't have that sharp taste. Garlic is sweet when it's completely cooked. I can't touch garlic. I have cooked garlic and I've got puffy eyes and I put on 3 kilograms overweight. It's scary, man. It just goes straight to my thyroid. My body does not like it. Some people don't have the problem. You have to experiment on yourself. Lack of iodine, I already mentioned it. Chronic long-term stress, exercise and sunlight. Exercise, I didn't mention too much, but exercise regulates at least 16 to 18 different hormones in the body. And many of those hormones have an effect on your brain, your central nervous system, and your thyroid gland. And if you're not producing the right amount of hormones, you could have brain fog. Not a good idea, okay? Right. Lack of sprouted grains. We need sprouted grains in our body because it contains a vitamin E succinate. Barley grass contains more than any other sprouted grain. It's one of the reasons I drink the Barley Life every morning. It's my barley grass juice. And because of the way they make it, they harvest it at night and they chill it in the harvesting machine. They extract the juice, chill it, and take it like that to the factory where in its chill state, it's spray dried at room temperature. I don't know another company that does that. I don't have the time and effort to grow tons of barley grass and then juice it every morning for the entire family. So I found it easier to use the dried version. It works for me, okay? So basically, what are you going to do? You need a diet that's high in fresh fruits and vegetables, raw before cooked. Snack, craving something sweet, eat fresh fruit or dried fruit first with no preservatives in it. I would try and make your snacks in between your meals, fruit and vegetables, to make your diet more alkaline forming. Include lots of salads and alkaline and vegetables in your meals as well. Let your portion of animal protein not be more than the size of the palm of your hand, more than 1 to 3 times a week. The high protein diet affects mental clarity. Okay, it's very difficult to digest cooked protein, and the reason for that is when you cook protein, it coagulates, just like an egg white does. Egg whites can dissolve in water, so it's water soluble. Before you cook it, it won't mix with water at all, and that's what protein does. And protein needs to be water soluble. So where do you get raw protein? Sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds contain as much complete protein as rump steak contains. We have been led to believe that you're going to die of a protein deficiency if you don't eat animals. I'm not telling you to become vegan. I'm giving you options, okay? You get all the protein and the fats and the calcium that you need from a plant-based diet if you eat wisely. Whole food, handful of raw nuts and seeds a day, natural light, exercise. You end up with perfect health. Mark and I haven't had a doctor's bill due to ill health for over 30 years. It's not boasting. Many other people have done the same thing. It saves us an enormous amount of stress, money, and time. And I don't have enough of all of those things. I mean, I've got too much stress. Everybody has living in the world we're in, and I don't want any more. I don't want to be wasting my hard-earned money on sitting in a doctor's waiting room for hours because there's so many people there. Let's take the pressure off the medical system, get ourselves well, so that people that really need help, that have been in accidents and have wounds, can actually be put back together. Maybe if they all stopped drinking, they wouldn't have accidents and wounds. But, you know, things happen. My daughter, the wheelbarrow fell on her foot, and she cut her foot really badly. Mark dropped the drill, the grinder. Fortunately, it went down battery first on his foot, and he had to have it raised for a full day with ice. And always remember rice. Rest, ice, compress, elevate with the wound. That's what we do. Rest, ice, compress, elevate. It was this big swollen thing, and after about an hour, it went down, and his foot's absolutely perfect. You can learn first aid so that you can actually deal with the little things as well, and even the big things. If you know that pack things with ice, if there's a dog bite, you're going to pack it with ice because you know that. Rest, ice, compress, elevate, rice. Remember that for first aid. That's the basics. I can't go into too much of that. All right. So you need to exercise. You need to get at least 30 minutes of natural light, 20 to 30 minutes on a daily basis. Your body does store vitamin D, but it doesn't really. You need natural light every day to regulate your sleep and your moods. You need it every day. So even if it's snowing, try and get outside. If you can't get outside, stand on your veranda and open the door. Stand in front of a room, shut all the doors in your house, open the windows, and get natural light and do some exercise in a warm tracksuit or exercise outfit, whatever you exercise in. Sprouted green foods contain a vitamin E succinate that helps the pituitary gland work properly. That's the managing director of the thyroid gland and the whole hormonal system. And so, as I say, barley grass juice works for me. You can grow your own. Exercise, I mentioned. All right, that's basically it. I'll answer some questions as best as I can. The basics are, if you need more help and you need a program, go to your facilitator or to info@wholeworldwell.com. Speak to Claudia. If you forget her name, she's not offended, and she will put you in touch with the facilitator. Facilitator then helps you, and then if you want to come to question and answer sessions once a week, you're welcome to come. I'll answer a couple of questions, not too much. I've gone over. I've not been going for an hour because we started late, so I'll go on for as long as you have questions until the half hour. I'm just going to go back to the Zoom so I can see what's in the chat there. Right. Oh gosh, why does this do this? Let's go up to there. No. Trying to get the Zoom open. Right. Let's go back. No. Why is this Zoom playing up like this? Okay. Zoom meeting. Oh gosh. Let me see. You got no pics? We can hear you on YouTube. Right, you can hear. You got any questions? You can put it up on YouTube. I'm just looking for Zoom. What? Help me here, please. I can't get the Zoom to open up. If I go there, it goes away. Well, let me try and shut everything else down. I'll tell you, let me do that. All right, let's just close that down until nothing else is. There we go. Right, I've got my message box up here. Okay. How long is the Zoom call today, Amy? It's basically up now. I'm just going to ask questions. You're welcome to stay on for a little while longer. Probably 10 or so minutes if it's difficult. Quality of sound is bad. It was said here, difficult to make out. What about organic chocolate, okay? Organic chocolate, doesn't matter where the cocoa beans came from. They could have been sprayed or not sprayed. They could have been hand-grown in Paraguay. They could have been harvested in South America somewhere, which they usually are. At the end of the day, all cocoa beans contain caffeine, whether it's organic or not. All green tea contains caffeine, all coffee contains caffeine, or raw cacao, which is the cocoa bean, contains it. It doesn't matter. If it came from a cocoa or a cacao tree, it contains caffeine. You can't get it. You could probably decaffeinate it, and you can decaffeinate coffee and tea, and that would be a better option. But you need to use the Swiss or the steam method. You still get about 2%, so it may still affect you. It depends. You have to try it out and see, okay? All right. Let's just see what else is open down here. Make sure that's all closed. All right, so really don't have anything else. So I'm just trying to get these documents closed. So that I can get this working. Why is my chat box not working? Last question I had was, I'm sorry, my wheel is spinning. The spinning wheel, doing what it did last night. Look, if you have any other questions, put it on YouTube. All right, let's go and have a look there. Sharon says, echo not nice, but happy to watch a Zoom, no picture. All right, so let me put this one down. All right. Put my mouse on. Mouse is black. That one's not working. All right. Right. My son is on hormone blockers as he is a trans child. I am concerned about his weight gain and his sluggishness since he started on these years ago. He's only 12. Oh my gosh, Nessa. This is really difficult. Any hormones he's going to go on is going to interfere with his endocrine function. You interfering with endocrine function, and that's what's going to happen. So it's a sad thing. I would try and go back to the doctor and see if they can't change the quantities, the quality. But you're messing with a very, very important system, and it's a very delicate thing to do. Maybe we can chat about this privately. Whoever invited you, just contact Claudia, info@naturalway, info@wholeworldwell.com. Send her an email with more detail, and we'll deal with it there, okay? Any tips on managing Hashimoto's disease is the same as treating an underactive thyroid. Exactly. It's exactly what it is. You can call it anything you want to. When the thyroid's not working, it's not working. You can have different names. It doesn't work because of the same reasons. You may end up with Hashimoto's, maybe underactive, maybe overactive. Everybody responds differently. If I have caffeine in my diet, my blood sugar and blood pressure drops down. When my husband has it, his blood pressure goes up. Our genetic predisposition puts us in a position where we respond differently to different things. So it's very important for us to understand that it doesn't matter the name. The thyroid's not working properly, and that's the endocrine system. You've got to get the endocrine system working properly. The only way to do that is diet and lifestyle, okay? Right. Young adults dealing with stress, studies, a new career, would you just recommend them to manage their time for those exercises, sunlight, and eating more fruit and veg? Absolutely. Frozen Bunny, that's such a funny name. I would recommend that the same principles I spoke about tonight, they're good for anybody. Little children, babies, pregnant women, elderly people, my mother at 88. This is just getting your body to a place where it's designed. It was designed to eat good, whole, natural foods, lots of plant foods. We know that the fiber in plant foods is what prevents us from getting colorectal cancer, which is the #1 form of cancer in westernized countries. If you want to go and look at something interesting, go look at the Blue Zones. Go to the TED Talks, TED, TED Talks. Blue Zones is one that's about 20 minutes long by a man called Dan. I'll tell you the surname, but it's a strange one called Butner, and you'll never remember it unless you've got a really good memory. So his name's Dan, TED Talks, Blue Zones. Look at the longest living, healthiest communities around the world and see what the common denominators are. It's informal exercise. That means walking, gardening, hiking, cycling, riding. Yeah, it's growing vegetables. The common denominators are right across the world, whether it's in Okinawa in Japan or Loma Linda in Southern California. They have the common denominators. It's a whole food, plant-based diet. It's a whole lot of factors. Go and read it. It's fantastic. Go and watch it. I don't want to spoil it for you. Right. What can I take instead of Barley Life? It has kelp. I have Graves' disease. Giselle, what you can take is leaf greens. Leaf greens is a combination of leaves without any kelp in it. It has got arugula, which is rocket, and it has it from the same company, and they make it the same way, juiced and chilled and dried. It's a fantastic product. I just prefer the taste of the Barley Life, and I love it. It works well for me. But a lot of people take the leaf greens instead of the barley. And I say a lot. Several people do. And usually because they are allergic to the kelp. But you can take that. Okay. Where are we? The pediatrician says my 12-year-old son's growth hormone is sluggish and they're looking to pump him with meds to help him grow. I don't want this at all. Dale, one of the best things to put your kid on, and I've seen it time and time again, get them onto the Barley Life. It contains that vitamin E succinate, which naturally helps the pituitary gland produce growth hormone, okay? If your child's not, remember, the doctor looks at, whether it's a pediatrician, doesn't matter, specialist physician, he's looking at the disease and how to treat it with medication. He's not looking at how you can change your lifestyle and your diet, sadly. It's not something they study. I will rejoice. One of the best organizations to belong to is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine in Washington, D.C., where I did part of my training. Dr. Neil Barnard heads that up. And they are fighting tooth and nail and have been fighting for over 30 years for doctors to include nutrition and healthy living as part of their training. They themselves have, I think, over 30,000 doctors around the world that are part of their organization, and they encourage a whole food plant-based diet. But again, I would encourage you, you can email me, but what I've given you today, the information I've given you today will help him just as much as it will anybody else. But it does mean you can't feed your kid a different diet and then you're on one. It means the whole family needs the endocrine systems to work properly. Your son maybe have issues with not producing enough of the hormones to help him grow, maybe overweight, maybe sluggish head. You may have problems with your libido. Your wife may have problems with her weight. It's all endocrine problems, and it's being affected differently, but by the same problems, okay? You can fix, I haven't seen anybody not be able to fix their hormonal system unless they've been on chronic medication and they're not prepared to make the changes in their diet to allow their body to come off the medication in time. Let me just make sure this is going too fast with my glasses. Small writing here, I need to see it. Okay, tips on managing, where are we? Can I take right? Vertigo connected to thyroid as well. Your vertigo is very often connected to your thyroid. It can be connected to your thyroid, but it very often can be connected to your sinus passages in your ears. And the most common cause of that is any dairy products in the diet, but it can be thyroid connected. So I would get all dairy out of the diet because it does affect the thyroid gland in a negative way, but it clogs your sinuses. Cheese, yogurt, and milk. You do not need it. We're not designed for it. It's for baby calves. We are designed to have our mother's milk until we need to be weaned and not after that. That's it. 2 to 3 years mother's milk. Cow's milk caused me to have my tonsils removed. It's the number one cause of tonsillitis and having your tonsils and your adenoids removed. It's a common cause of appendicitis. It causes inflammation. It's the major number one cause of sinusitis. Anything with an itis on the end is inflammation. Inflammation of the sinuses. Get the dairy out. You get all the calcium you need from dark green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds in your diet. There's not one fruit or vegetable that doesn't contain 100% usable calcium in its raw state. The more you eat, the healthier and stronger your bones become. We know that in the countries where we consume dairy products, cow's milk, yogurt, and cheese, we have more dental decay and osteoporosis or brittle bone disease in countries where they don't consume cow's milk. Like China, for example, it's almost unheard of to consume cow's milk. The blue zones, it's not something they consume. There's occasionally a little bit of goat's milk, cheese, and Sardinia, which is one of the areas, but it's not something people eat on a daily basis. All right. Celiac disease, diagnosed 11 years ago, still struggling with dry skin. Do take omega and following a whole food plant-based diet. How can I fix this? Marina, if you've got celiac disease, obviously you've got to get all the gluten out of your diet. You have to take... you need to get essential fatty acids. I would have the celiac disease probably about 4 3 times a day or 6 twice a day of the capsules because you need more than somebody else. You need to exercise. You need to manage your stress. You need to make sure that you might find that there's certain things that are upsetting you. Are you taking natural intestinal flora, which helps your digestive tract function more efficiently? You could have anything inflammatory in your diet. It could be sugar. You may be on whole food plant-based, but you're having a little cheat once a month. If I have, it can take up to 6 weeks to correct my body to correct itself. That endocrine system is so sensitive in some people. You can just knock it a little bit, it can take 6 weeks. And it's not fair. You have one meal that had cheese in it, or one meal that had gluten in it, or 1 cup of coffee, or a little bit of chocolate, and it didn't have any dairy in it, and it's taking 6 weeks to repair. It's not a lot of fun, okay? So, but what is fun is walking on the right track and doing what you know works for you because you feel amazing eventually. And you may feel amazing in 2 weeks, in 2 months, in 2 years. It's worth it. That's all I can tell you. For everybody that I've spoken to, it's worth changing your lifestyle and your diet. It's absolutely worth it. Because you feel amazing. Your brain's working all the time. Your bowels work properly. Your immune system works properly. Everything's just working. If blood pressure meds lead to... hold on before I get there. My feet are often cold. Other than exercise, what can I do? Work on getting your thyroid working better. Thyroid gland working healthy. You don't have cold feet and hands all the time. Exercise, natural light, gluten-free, all the things that I've mentioned tonight, okay? This is an interesting one. They're all interesting. Blood pressure meds lead to diabetes. How can one safely wean off these allopathic meds? Okay, Michelle, good question. First, focus on getting your endocrine system working properly. Remove things like caffeine. We know that pushes blood pressure up. Arachidonic acid. It's in all animal products. It causes inflammation and increasing blood pressure and blood clots, okay? It's found in eggs, in yogurt, in cheese, in milk, in fish, in chicken. It doesn't matter. If it's from an animal, it's got arachidonic acid. If you had to eat human flesh, it would have arachidonic acid in it. We make arachidonic acid from omega-6s in plants, but we only make as much as we need. Sometimes we need to clot our blood. When you're menstruating, when you cut your finger, your body says, quickly convert those derivatives that we've got from omega-6 into arachidonic acid, go block the blood, go and clot the blood. You may need inflammation as a response to having cut your finger. It's a normal response, inflammation, but it dies down usually within 12 to 24 hours. But if the inflammation keeps going, it means you've got too much arachidonic acid. It's usually from your diet, okay? So, right. You've got to get, here's an interesting story I'm going to tell you. My husband and I rode the Cape Cycle Tour, used to be called the Argus, 1 year, and we were coming into Cape. It was the hottest Argus ever, hottest Cape Cycle Tour ever. People were standing with hose pipes, watering all the people down. And when I'm telling you this, so you'll see it in context, in the middle of the race, halfway through the race, all the water points had run out of water. They were just offering Coke. So we had to actually stop and go into shops and buy water and put as much in our rucksacks and on our bicycles as we could when we got to the shop. Anyway, just before the end, about 1 kilometer, a guy comes racing through and clips Mark's handlebar, and Mark goes flying off into the street, and he's bleeding and his clothes are torn, and the ambulance arrives and picks him up. They take his blood pressure, and they say, oh my word, your blood pressure is very, very low for a man of your age. And I wasn't allowed inside, but I'm peering through the window. I said, he's a vegetarian. I didn't say vegan because most people don't really know what it is. I said, he's a vegetarian. And the guy said, oh, no, that's okay. Vegetarian's blood pressure is lower. And paramedics know it. Why don't the doctors? The paramedics know that a vegetarian has lower blood pressure. They know it. But the doctors don't know. So if you go to the doctor and your blood pressure is high, he should tell you to stop all animal products, not salt. There's no actual evidence that salt pushes up your blood pressure. It's a theory. And I can tell you that because my husband insists on putting too much salt on his food. If I taste his food, it's always too salty. If I salt the food, he puts more salt on it. And I say, oh, it's too salty. His blood pressure was 160 over 110. He took caffeine out, it came down, and then he took animal products out. And when they took it on the day of the August, after being in that hot weather, riding a bicycle, his blood pressure was 100 over 75. For a man of his age in his 60s, that is phenomenal blood pressure. There's no strain on the heart at all, okay? So that's where you're headed. But start with not mixing proteins and starches. Start with cutting it down to one portion, 1 to 3 times. Eat it as a treat. And eventually you'll find the less you eat, the better your body feels, especially with the blood pressure, okay? I'm doing the Veganuary challenge and feeling fantastic. But is long-term vegan eating healthy? Yes, absolutely it is. And I can tell you because I've been vegan, virtually vegan, and I say virtually with an odd bit of cheese when I've gone out to somebody's house or to dinner and there's some cheese in something and I can't get it out. I've been very strict vegan with no cheese at all for the last probably 13 or 14 years. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I was virtually vegan altogether for as old as my youngest daughter is. She'll be 35 or 36 this year. She's 35, I think. 1981. Oh, yeah, 35. And I became vegan literally within 3 months of her being born. We became vegetarian and then vegan very close after that, okay? Haven't had a doctor's bill due to ill health. I'm stronger. I have muscles. Those are my muscles. I have bigger muscles now than I had when I was 20 and 30. Seriously, I'm stronger than I was. And it's not just me. It's a whole food, plant-based diet that keeps you as a healthy vegan. You can go vegan and live on white wheat pasta and coffee and colas. You can think you're eating a healthy vegan diet and you're eating processed soy and processed gluten that looks like hamburger patties and looks like, if you're eating a hamburger patty, make sure it's vegetables and brown rice and like the ones we make it with brown lentils and brown rice and mushrooms and beets. There's no processed soy or processed plant protein. It's none of that hydrolyzed plant protein, and that stuff is really difficult for our body to deal with it, okay? It's when you're eating processed fake meat food products that you end up becoming an unhealthy vegan. And you can have them as an occasional treat if you feel like it, but it's up to you. But I don't touch those things. I want my thyroid to stop working properly. I eat something with soy or anything with processed protein like that. It is so processed you can't even use the stuff. It's heated and processed at high temperatures. Not ideal at all. Your protein's better off being raw from your nuts and seeds. All right. Per my question regarding meds for growth hormone for 12-year-old son, he likes the garden trio. Can I give him 3 a day? Yes, you can. And I would give him an Amiga straight away. He must have Amiga 3 times a day as well, okay? Must have that. But he's going to have to get off gluten and he's going to have to get off refined sugar. Those things are very important, okay? Are meat alternatives good? I just covered that, Mercy. No, they're not. They're an occasional thing, but I wouldn't touch them. I think I've had them twice in my life, and I got constipated, and my thyroid just came to a grinding halt. Okay. All right. Where are we now? What about almond milk? Almond milk is great, but make your own. The way they make almond milk is with heated fats and processed emulsifiers and all kinds of rubbish. And they put 2% of almonds in. If you took a quarter cup of almonds, close your palm of your hand like that, completely closed, you're probably about 12 or 15 almonds in there. And you threw it in a blender jug with a liter of water and blended it at high speed for at least 3 minutes. You'd get the most beautiful almond milk. All you need to do is pour it through a sieve, freeze it in Ziploc bags or in ice cubes, and take out as much as you need. There's 12% almonds when you put that little bit, 12 to 15 almonds. There's 2% in the almond milk. 2%. They're probably putting in 3 or 4 almonds into a liter, and then they're adding all these mouthfeel chemicals and heated fats and all kinds of rubbish to give it a milky feel. But if you just put in a little bit of extra almonds, and it ends up costing you between 3 and 5 rand a liter. That's like a quarter or a fifth of a dollar. It's a tiny amount. In South Africa, you're paying 25 rand a liter for almond or most plant milks. You can make it yourself for under 5 rand. It's a fifth of the cost and less. Don't even think of buying it. The only time you buy it is if you buy the barista blend because you're wanting to make coffee, and if you want your thyroid to work properly, make sure it's a decaf using the steam method. So, you're all shocked. Start slowly. Start slowly. Take one day at a time. Get onto the 100 days to health. It's a slow, gradual process where you're adding more of the good stuff. And if you're in a hurry and you've got serious health problems, 30-day detox. You've got to be brave too. And if you're wanting me to encourage you for the rest of your life, get onto the 365. But it's only starting on the 1st of Feb, we think. So watch this space. Make sure that you are on our YouTube channel. We'll let you know on the YouTube channel with notification. Make sure that you're on our email database. If you don't know how to get there, talk to your facilitator, give her the email address, or send it to Claudia at info@wholewellwell.com. Okay? Right. Michelle and everybody else, I'm saying good night. Keep yourselves healthy. Goodbye, at least. Keep yourselves healthy. Look forward to meeting some of you in the Q&A sessions. It's a great time. We don't do it on YouTube at all. It's only on this on Zoom, and we'll make sure that the Zoom is working properly. I don't know what's going on tonight, but at least we had another option. Oh, some of you are still there, okay? So I'm going to say God bless you all. Stay healthy, and remember, the miracle is your body, not the pill, not the powder, not the person. It's your body. Create the right environment for it to heal itself, and it invariably does. I've yet to come across somebody who changes their diet and lifestyle and their health is not improved dramatically. Dramatically. Usually with the longest period most people I've dealt with, it's been 8 years, but that's with somebody who was on terrible diets, taking all kinds of pills, powders, and potions, and it's a long time to get her thyroid working properly. She went to grossly overweight to being a standard size 34 and always being healthy. And she hung in there, and she says, every day, this is worth it. It took long, and I had to have a lot of patience, but every day that went past, I felt better. It was always better than where I came from. And that's the good thing. You'll keep feeling better in certain areas. Your feet will feel better, then your bowels will feel better, then you have more energy, then you're sleeping better, okay? So, hope to see some of you. Other than that, do the best that you can. Remember, your body's the miracle. Goodbye. Ciao. Ciao. I'm out of here. Okay. Log out. I can't find the leave the meeting button. Zoom is not responding. All right. And this one?
Step away from the mic.
Okay. We'll take over. I think it's a Zoom that needs to be updated on my computer.